Okay, this is my second try at this video because some guy kept sending me, calling me over and over again, and it just ruined the video, as if the videos don't suck anyway. I'm gonna try to be just a tiny little more perky and enthusiastic about these videos. It's gonna be hard. This video is gonna be about real estate. I'm gonna put it in here. I had this client in Singapore I used to go to every year to teach real estate modeling. I thought it was okay. They want to do a somebody inside Singapore now. It was damn. And then we're going to talk about circular references in the and here it goes. Here it goes. He's going to call. God damn. And I'm going to get a Skype thing now. See? Damn it. Shit. Okay, this time I'm keeping going. Care about that. Somebody calls, they don't know I'm making a video. All right. So this, and here's the issue. Okay. Uh, Somebody calls. See, I'm all flustered now. Somebody suggested, and a very nice man suggested, not like this person who's going to call me again all the time. And right now I'm going to get another Skype call. See, I can't do anything about it. Probably could turn off Skype here, huh? Somehow. Okay, let's do that. And maybe I'll put my phone too on the Skype. Sorry about the delay. It's my third time. I'm not gonna do this again. Okay, now. Uh, okay, let's go back. So this was the question about interest during construction and fees. I'm not going to read it because I spent too much time. Now let's get started. Now what I did was in real estate. Here's the problem. You often have multiple projects. Otherwise it would be so much like regular old project finance. You could almost replicate kind of ideas. So we have some gross floor area, some efficiency, some net floor area, a cap rate, which is like a PE ratio. Sometimes I think real estate is kind of in the middle of corporate finance and project finance. And then we have a second project that has a different start date, a different holding period, different cap rate, blah, blah, blah. Okay? And now I just got another phone call. I hope you didn't hear that. And uh, debt assumptions. The debt assumptions are that we have a fixed amount of debt in here. Now we can apply some um, of our normal stuff. First, I put the standard kind of switches. This time I have a switch for both projects and a switch for the exit periods on both projects. The switch for the net floor area on both projects, and it looks like what I did to get started. I just made one of the projects have zero, so it's excuse me, it's just got nothing going on. Okay, and we put some very simple. I put some very simple construction expenditures in, and some operating income, and finally let's just add some exit proceeds from project one and some exit proceeds for project two. Okay, the uh, I'll put it kind of our cap rate up here. That's what this depends on. So I hope this is the project one cap rate, and this is the project two cap rate. And can take our operating income times probably 12 months in a year. You can object to the 12, but go to hell because there are always 12 months in a year. And see, I'm in a funny mood today, sorry about this. And then we put the exit period, okay, and then we take the same thing, the second operating income times 12 months in a year, divided by the cap rate multiplied by the second exit period. Okay, and then we have our, at least our one exit period. Now, let me, before I go through this, what I did is I started putting some titles in. Now, this won't, I'm sure I'll have to change things. The first thing I did was get the project sources and uses over the entire period, not just the not period by period. This sums them over the entire period. It's just like what we do in corporate project finance. Okay, so we're eventually going to, for our direct costs, let's just do that one. We'll sum the direct cost, and hopefully, when I put in the construction expenditures, oh shit. Looks like okay, well, I'll have to do it like that, won't I? I was hoping to just be able to sum the whole line, but I can't, okay? So we have none for the second one. And then the problem is going to be that we have interest during construction. Now, in this case, the interest during construction will be allocated, way down here. We'll have some allocation of the interest during construction to the first project, and then we'll have some allocation of interest during construction to the second project. So that'll be another painful thing, all right? And I suppose we could, I'll go ahead and get it. Now, I can already see I missed something. Okay, so project 1, we have the interest during construction, and I'm going to hope I don't put anything in those first two columns for this one. And then we can put the interest during construction in to the second project. Okay, now I really should allocate the fees in the same way I allocated the interest during construction, and I'm just going to leave that out for a minute. And if we press alternate equal, it doesn't work. So if we press alternate equal like this, it should work. All right, and now the equity funding is 25% of the total, meaning the debt is 75. And that is the way we can get started. And then I think it is very difficult to, this doesn't look like this, I don't know why I pressed F4, that was completely unnecessary. Alternate equal. Okay, this is the key, kind of one of the keys, is to put a little summary thing together. I used to not do that. I have no idea how you could solve these types of problems without having a little summary table right at the top. Okay, now once we have the summary table, we'll go through a debt and equity balance. Now this debt and equity balance, it's going to be like so many of the other corporate and project finance models. We know the opening closing balance equals the closing balance. We don't know the equity, the income, and the dividends until we've worked through the cash flow analysis, and in some cases until we even have gone all the way down to the income statement and the well, we certainly don't need to go to the balance sheet. So I made a mistake already, but the opening balance is equal to the closing balance. And this is what I've suggested many, many times, is that when you do this, number one, these items that you fill in from the accounts are not where the complicated calculations are. This is where the calculations are. Now, I have equity funding. Let me just stop here. This will say, okay, whoops, let's take the cash flows from the project, input, the inflows. Let's subtract the capex from the projects. Let's take away the interest we have to pay. Let's take away the fees we have to pay. Those are going to come from below, causing a circular reference. And then we get net cash flow. Now, if our net cash flow is negative here, we need to potentially fund the equity. Now, the maximum equity we're going to fund is the amount of the negative cash flow or the remaining equity to be funded. And where did I put the remaining equity to be funded? I thought I had done that, but apparently I have not. So just below the equity balance, I think we need to put in the equity commitment. This is this whole business of equity first. And then we can put less the opening balance that we just have upstairs, and this gives us the remaining equity to fund. Okay, so this is going to come from here. Now, this is kind of like a backwards thing, but I've never done it like this, but I don't see what's the problem, and maybe this will become a new technique. But we can put our net income all the way down from the profit and loss statement, and we can get our dividends, and their dividends here. I model this like a project finance model, that they're the kind of end of the cash flow statement. So our closing balance is the opening balance plus the equity we put in, plus the net income minus the dividends. All right, and then our equity commitment, well, that's why we needed this thing up front. Maybe that's the biggest reason we needed that, and that's just going to be fixed. And then we can take the opening balance of our thing. Great. And let's take the opening balance. I'm trying to multitask now, which for me as a male is very difficult. And we have the equity balance. The debt balance will be almost the same kind of thing. Here's the rule. This rule I apply to just about any of the models. When you go down and find the debt funding, you go down and get that from the cash flow statement, not the other way around. Okay, that's the big rule. And that's the same issue in this case with the debt repaid. And the trick in this whole analysis is the trick in this whole analysis is that, okay, these phone calls are driving me nuts. Plus, okay, I'm computing the closing balance. Suppose we can get the interest then. And the interest, I did a simple old monthly model, so no problems with adjusting the period of the interest or anything like that. Okay? And then as we needed, this is going to be another reason we have some circular references, as we needed the debt, we also need the equity, and then so we can get the upfront fees on the equity on the debt commitments. I'm gonna just cheat. No F4 on that one. Okay. I hope. Oh, I might screw it up because later it'll multiply it. I'll fix that later. Screw that. And then let's put the debt commitment in. And then this is a standard kind of thing where we can take the opening balance of the debt commitment, and the difference is the undrawn fees, and the commitment fees we can put in here. So that's all very standard. All would frankly be not an enormous problem and not really very difficult if we had so let's take the undrawn balance times this thing. Okay, now okay, when we have multiple projects and we're going to have some standard circular reference for this. Now what I'm going to do is work through this without the circular references. After we work through it without the circular references, we'll this is bugging me, this stupid goddamn thing. Let's put our debt commitment date. Let's just make a debt commitment date. How's that? It's kind of silly. Suppose it could be. Oh, come on. So we can put in our let's just make it this. Okay. So for the upfront fees, how about we'll put when the debt commitment begins. I shouldn't have really done that because, you know, I suppose we could let's just make this one equal to this one and multiply it by and then multiply that by that. So that's just putting a true false kind of in the little thing. Now the cash flow from project number 1, we have exit proceeds, we have operating income plus the proceeds from project number 2, and I'm not going to really waste a lot of time on calculating the IRRs or anything like that. Okay, that's all kind of standard. Then let's take the capex from number 1. Sorry about if I'm going up and down and you're watching. God knows when the one person who watches this video watches it. Maybe you're on a subway in Paris, which would be really cool. Why? I don't know. Watching a Excel sheet go up and down. You are amazing. I admire you for watching these things, if anybody really is. Now, the interest paid, that's just, we're not going to worry about whether it's capitalized or not, at least for this part of the cash flow analysis. I might have to change that assumption just a little bit later on, so we have that up here. And the fees paid are these two. Okay? Well, that means that if we take this one plus this one minus this one minus this one, and if you don't notice that I'm just reading from the side and using a positive number convention, Well, whatever. That's what I'm doing. Now, if this is negative, so we put a maximum and put a minus on this, or 0. So we start with, oops, and I forgot the 0. That's what we start with. And then we take that one and take the minimum of this, or we take, and that's why we computed that remaining equity to fund. Okay, so we get it all by funding. Now, I suppose I should put net after equity. You know, this is this other lesson that really you should have a whole bunch of subtotals. Okay, and then on this one, if it's negative, so we put maximum of the minus of this, just like we did before, or 0. And what we do here is, I suppose we can put a test on the commitment, but I'm not going to because, and then because I'm going to let it fund more debt, which is I really shouldn't. We'll make sure. We'll put it shouldn't ever happen, but we'll put a test. Now let's put maximum of the, if it's, we're going to repay it of this, or 0, but we never would repay more than our opening balance. So what we have here is just a regular old cash flow sweep. And the problem here with real estate is you could easily, you have multiple projects. And we can take this last subtotal we had, add the amount of the debt, which should bring it to 0, and subtract that, and that's the dividends. So then we're going to get a lot of these. Now, I'm going to take the construction for this construction work in progress for this project. Now, let's show you what I did first. We need to figure out and allocate this IDC to 2 different projects, which is a problem that I hate. And I'd love to hear a better solution to this problem. Somebody named Tristan in Paris told me a way to make a data table, use inputs from another sheet, which is kind of tricky, but it was very wonderful. And if you have a better way, tell me. So we'll take this, for this project, just the construction as a percent of the capital. Then let's say this construction is 100% of the capital, but there's no debt to capital, then we have no interest to allocate. Okay. And to get our interest to allocate, we'll put the interest rate. Well, I think maybe I'll leave it here. Okay, and then we can put the opening balance, add the construction expenditures for this one. The IDC will be the interest rate we have up here. And we can multiply that by the debt to capital ratio and the balance, the opening balance, to get how much IDC to allocate. And then we can do a similar thing with the fees. I'm gonna come back to that. And then the date we have it going into plant in service, which is our occupancy date. We'll just take the total balance and take it out of the balance. Now what I didn't do here is once we have this, then we can put our plant balance and opening balance. We don't really have to do this. Add the plant in service from just above. Put a closing balance. And then we can put a depreciation expense. And our depreciation rate, we put it in for the two different projects. And I don't know how real estate people do with the land value and everything else. I'll leave that out. And so then we can compute that. And finally, I suppose we can put our accumulated depreciation. And we can even put our net plant. And the difference between our proceeds less the net plant, that's going to be our gain on our sale, which could be taxable or not, but for book purposes we better put it in there. And then we'll do the same thing for the second one. And okay, so let's copy that. And I'll bet you I'll run out of space. See? Shouldn't have done that. Okay. And okay, let me finish this. Now, hopefully, okay, I'll just work through this, okay, and it won't take a ridiculous amount of time. Then we can put our total interest, which you remember we just computed above. We get our capitalized interest from both projects. Now, once the project is in service, there's no capitalized interest. The remaining interest, so if you have one project in getting capitalized interest and the other one not, you can compute, the remaining will just be an interest expense. Then we can go down to our interest income statement and collect the depreciation from both, the gain on the sale, take away the interest expense. You know, I didn't put any taxes in this, and you get net income. And then we can take our net plant and our net assets, and I suppose we capitalize the IDC to the net plant, and I tried to capitalize the fees. Now I haven't finished with the fees, and I'm sure you noticed I haven't finished with the fees, but I'm gonna just kind of go through this. Now let's just take our construction work in progress from the all the way from the balance sheet, and I said we should divide it by the total assets, or the total capital, really. Doesn't really matter, does it? We're going to divide by 0, of course, so let's put an if and put the I-204, okay? If you really don't like that, you can multiply that by 1. Now the debt to capital, we'll have to do the same sort of thing. Okay, so let's take the debt. It looks like debt is in 203 divided by the capital, which is in 205. And now I might want to do that with the last period debt to capital. Okay, and I don't think we really need this line. Let's just see if we do. So the opening balance is equal to the last period's closing balance, number 1. Number 2, construction expenditures, them from, we can take them from here, I suppose. And then IDC is the opening balance. Okay, but if we have, it depends on two things. It depends on how much of the opening balance is in this project versus the other project. So if they're half and half, this would be 50%. That's wrong. I don't even need that. I just need, because we just need the debt to capital, and then we need to multiply that by the interest rate. We're just allocating that to this one. I think that's a better way to do it, and I'm sorry about putting that whole construction work in progress percent there. I don't think that was necessary. Now the plant in service, the capitalized fees, let's just leave out for a minute. And the plant in service will be the date equal to the plant in service date multiplied by the opening balance plus any construction we've done this period plus any IDC we've done this period and plus the capitalized fees. And I forgot the capitalized fees, and you probably think that I was going to forget to put a bracket around this whole thing, and I probably could have, but I didn't. And now the closing balance is the opening balance plus the construction plus the IDC plus the capitalized fees minus the amount we put in service. Okay, and then we move to project number 2. Oh, God. Hear that? Oh, no. More interruptions in my video. I'm going to pause again. Okay, hopefully I won't get too many more rude interruptions. Certainly might. So the plant in service is just here. We're just continuing, and I'm just kind of anxiously waiting for a circular reference. Excuse me. And then we'll take our depreciation expenses, our opening balance. I suppose we really don't even have to, put any little switch in, because since we're using it on the plant in service rather than the construction, we can do it like that. And our net plant is our, let's make our closing balance minus our accumulated depreciation. Exit proceeds are the exit proceeds somewhere we did before we started our kind of financing section. That's all we put in. And after, I'm wasting a whole lot of time on these stupid things without doing we can take our net plant against the exit proceeds, and I suppose we should multiply the net plant by the switch for the exit period, which I seem to have screwed up. And then we can get our gain on the sale. Now, I'm still really kind of a little bit, here's the circular reference. Right now, it says we have a tiny bit of IDC, which is bizarre. I probably took the wrong. I'm going to leave this out for a minute. The IDC shouldn't. The IDC, the way we computed it here, is a function of the debt to capital and the construction expenditures. So we essentially allocate the IDC to project 1 or project 2, and by doing that, we don't have a circular reference yet. We have to have one. This can't be so too good to be true, kind of. So I'm just finishing up project 2. I began it, and the plant in service here, which I didn't finish, remember, is the opening balance plus the construction plus the IDC plus the capitalized fees. Put a little bracket around this. I'll multiply this by this equals that. Okay. And like I say, I didn't put the capitalized fees in yet. I don't care about this stupid formatting. The closing balance is the opening balance plus the plant in service, and we take the opening balance multiplied by the depreciation, right, to get our depreciation. This is the prior period plus the depreciation expense, and our net plant is our closing balance minus our accumulated depreciation. Our exit proceeds come from the exit proceeds of our second project, and our net plant is this multiplied by the exit period switch. Okay, and we're just about finished. Total interest, remember, now that came from our cash flow statement, or it came from somewhere else, and that means, and then we can take our well, this was really stupid. The total interest better be 0 so far. Okay, well, first of all, we didn't have any debt funding, so we got to fix that, and then we can take our total capitalized interest from the IDC, which is just, kind of accounting, and we can find the IDC on this one and add the IDC on the second one. We can have 10 of these accounts, and so our other remaining interest is this. So eventually we should switch, and then we'll have to do the same thing with the capitalized fees. Let's get our net revenues. Do I really have to waste your time with these? Operating income from this one. Well, I already put it down here. This plus this. Total depreciation expense. Okay. And we've got this one. The gain on sale, we have it from our plant accounting. Okay. And the interest expense, we have to be really careful. That's not capitalized interest, so our net income is this minus this plus this minus the interest. And now we can have everything. Now our construction work in progress for plant number 1 is the closing balance. For plant number 2 is this one. Net plant assets for plant number 1 are here, and the net plant assets for the second one is here. And so we can press alternate equal. I promised to make this exciting, and I'm not, but what the hell. And and I sigh a lot in my videos. I know I do. I shouldn't sigh so much. And the closing balance of the equity is up here. Okay, and we can add the two together, and finally, finally, we get a circular reference. Now, the circular reference comes from our use of the debt to capital here. It comes from the interest paid and the closing balance. Now, let me just see if we can cheat for a minute with this debt to capital. I suspect this won't work. So if we would change this, and instead of I, we put H. Okay. I still haven't fixed it here. No, this should have been the same sort of thing. Oh no, we can leave it as the same debt to capital. That's okay. No, I think we might still have a circular reference, but let's fix the debt just for a minute. Okay, so we have some cash flow and the debt funded. I don't know where I was taking this debt funding from, but it should have come from this one. And the debt repaid should have come from the next one. Okay. Now, let's copy this whole thing. Okay, and we better get a circular reference. If we don't get a circular reference, I'll be a little sad. Okay, I press Shift Control R. Perhaps it would have been better to, in this case, Shift Control right arrow, Shift Control R, and we didn't get a circular reference, and I'm going to have to switch the video off for just a minute to figure out what's going on. Hello, I'm back. I'm just trying to finish this thing now. No. Okay, so let's just review what we did. I put all the regular standard old switches at the top, and I turned off our second project by putting a 0 gross floor area in there. Excuse me. Then I'm going to now let me see what interest rate let's put I put a 0% interest rate. If you put a 0% interest rate, here's how the whole thing works. Let's start with the bottom. Let's experience just the ecstasy of the balance sheet balancing. Really nothing better. Look at that. It all balances. Not only that does it balance, it goes down to 0 at the end. That's what's supposed to happen. And the way that happens is by carefully making an account with your gross plant balance and your accumulated depreciation and all the rest of it, and making a net gain on the sale of the assets at the end. Okay, so that's that. And now, the more interesting news even than that is since we only have our first project, if you look at the debt to capital for this project, it hits our 75% target. Remember, we have 0 interest, and it hits this 75% target right at the date that we're putting it in the service. So that kind of verifies the basic model without any circular reference, without any tricks. And here's why: because I haven't put any interest during construction in, and I haven't put any fees in. As soon as we put those in, we're going to have a mess. So now let me put a 5% interest rate in here. If I put a 5% interest rate in, then you can see that we eventually get some interest paid after the equity first business all finishes up. We borrow some money, we repay some money, and then we finally pay a dividend, and we pay a whopping dividend right at the very end. That's our kind of basic structure. And I shouldn't sigh like that, I know. And now when we look at our debt to capital ratio, kind of doesn't, it's not really all that bad, but it isn't correct, okay? We don't really have 70% debt and 20% equity, and even though the balance sheet all balances, we've put the wrong amount of debt and equity in. So what we need to do is when we size the debt, we need to go up to the IDC here and put an equal sum, and we need to go down and get our IDC here from our first project. And here's the button. Did you hear the button? It means we have the dreaded blue lines. And when we have the dreaded blue lines, we have a circular reference. It's all kind of a mess. And I think I'm going to stop this video, and we will at first show you how to avoid the famous dreaded blue lines with a copy and paste macro, which is really pretty simple. And then we'll try one with a function, which I claim to be such an innovative kind of a thing, but it can be a little bit of a pain in the ass. So those will be our next two videos. We'll do that with the second IDC, the second interest during construction piece. Oops, it went away. I don't know why those blue lines go away sometimes. They're just horrible. Nightmare. And then we'll do it with the fees. We'll do it with the fees as well. So that's it for this video. And